Welcome back to the channel, where cold walls imprison not just people but also the silent screams of the past. In our journey exploring haunted locations, we've walked through many mansions stained by family tragedy and hotels famous for their lingering spirits. However, there's a type of location where the chill, the finality, and the terror are exponentially greater, that is, within horrifying prisons. Today, we travel to Ohio, to a majestic Gothic structure, a stone castle standing stoically in Mansfield, concealing a dark and haunting history. The Ohio State Reformatory, OSR, also known as the Mansfield Reformatory. This place isn't just famous for being the main setting of the classic film, The Shawshank Redemption. It's also considered one of the most intensely haunted prisons in the world. From an institution built with humane ideals of reform, OSR quickly devolved into a living hell, where hardened criminals endured brutal punishment and torture, where inmates murdered each other, and many chose to end their own lives to escape the horrific conditions. Although the last prisoner left in 1990, countless angry and suffering souls seem to remain permanently trapped behind its bars. Before we begin our journey into the dark corners of OSR, please make sure you've hit like and subscribe to our channel. This helps YouTube recommend more fascinating haunted videos to you, and is also a great source of motivation for us. Now join me as we step past these cold stone walls, listen for ghostly whispers, search for fleeting shadows, and sense the presence of spirits unable to find release within this castle of despair. To understand why the Ohio State Reformatory became such a haunted place, we need to look back at its paradoxical history. The story begins in 1886 when the first stones were laid. The land previously served as Camp Mordecai Bartley, a training ground for Civil War soldiers. Cleveland architect Levi T. Schofield was tasked with designing the facility. He created a unique architectural masterpiece blending Victorian Gothic, Richardsonian Romanesque, and Queen Anne styles, with its imposing limestone facade, soaring arches, and castle-like towers resembling an old German fortress. OSR was designed not just to confine but to uplift, inspire, and intimidate the inmates. Schofield believed this grand cathedral-like architecture could encourage prisoners to be spiritually reborn. Initially, OSR was known as the Intermediate Penitentiary, built with the noble purpose of reforming first-time offenders who were too old for juvenile detention but too young for the main penitentiary. The program focused on three pillars: religion, with regular services in the large chapel; education, the chance to complete high school; and trade skills, learning skills like farming or carpentry, to help them reintegrate into society. The initial sentencing system was also humane. Inmates received an initial sentence of only 18 months. Afterward, a board would evaluate if they had truly reformed. If so, they were released. If not, they served another 18 months. This system initially proved so effective that some former inmates returned to thank the staff and lead tours. For a time, OSR seemed like a progressive model of reform. Even the cells were designed for privacy with their own sinks and toilets, a luxury at the time. But this beautiful dream of reform didn't last. A catastrophic event at another prison triggered OSR's descent into hell. In 1930, a horrific fire broke out at the Ohio Penitentiary in Columbus, killing 320 inmates and requiring the relocation of hundreds more. To handle the emergency, many hardened, violent criminals from Columbus were transferred to OSR. This event completely shattered the original reformative environment. Young, first-time offenders now had to live alongside experienced and violent criminals. Violence erupted. Inmates began assaulting and killing each other regularly. During this period, many notorious criminals passed through OSR's gates, including Frank Freshwaters, convicted for a 1957 killing, but due to good behavior, he was transferred to an honor farm, quickly escaped, and successfully evaded capture until 2015 when he was in his 80s. Philip Orlick, Merrill Chandler, Chester Probaski. Inmates who killed guards in the 1920s and 1930s. Chandler and Probaski were later executed in the electric chair. John West and Robert Daniels, 1948. Two inmates who kidnapped and murdered the prison's honor farm superintendent and his entire family, wife and daughter, in a cornfield, then committed several more killings before being caught. West was shot dead by police and Daniels was sent to the electric chair. The arrival of these violent offenders made OSR a much more dangerous and brutal place. In the 1960s, the state of Ohio cut funding for the reform model and officially turned OSR into a maximum security prison. This is when the place truly became hell on earth. The small cells designed for one person were now crammed with 2 or 3 inmates. At one point, the prison housed up to 2,200 people, far exceeding its safe capacity. Overcrowding led to horrific sanitation issues. Rats were rampant. Diseases broke out and spread rapidly, overwhelming the infirmary. Due to severe understaffing, many sick inmates died from neglect. Guards began implementing brutal punishments and torture. Inmates were beaten with hoses, locked in solitary confinement, the whole, for days in sweltering heat, and tortured with an electrical device known as the butterfly. To me, this transformation is a true tragedy. A structure built with the intention of uplifting the human spirit became an instrument for crushing it. The soaring Gothic walls no longer symbolized spiritual aspiration, but only imprisonment and despair. Thousands of individuals had to live in fear, pain, and degradation. The negative energy accumulated during this period is undoubtedly the primary source of OSR's intense haunting today. Facing unbearable living conditions, many inmates chose to end their own lives as the only escape. Notable cases include James Lockhart, who set himself on fire to escape bullying and threats, and Larry Hamer, who hanged himself just a week before his scheduled transfer. Each suicide added another layer of haunting and despair to the prison's heavy atmosphere. Finally, in 1978, the Council for Human Dignity helped inmates file a class action lawsuit against OSR for inhumane conditions. They won, and a federal court ordered that the prison hold no more than 500 inmates at a time and be closed by the end of 1986. Due to delays in constructing a replacement facility, the final closing date was pushed to December 1990. On December 31, 1990, the last inmate left OSR, ending nearly a century of turbulent and tragic operation. The building was slated for demolition. But a group of local activists formed the Mansfield Reformatory Preservation Society. They purchased the building from the state for the symbolic price of $1 and began the daunting task of preservation. And it was the film The Shawshank Redemption, filmed here in 1992-1993, that brought the necessary attention and funding to save this historic structure from ruin. A poignant irony that a film about hope and freedom shot in a place filled with despair and confinement ultimately helped rescue it. Since OSR closed, and especially since it opened for tours, stories of hauntings have exploded. The site quickly gained notoriety as one of the most haunted locations in the world, attracting countless paranormal investigators and curious visitors. The spirits here are described as very angry, which is understandable given what happened. Prominent haunted hotspots include cell blocks, especially East Block, the world's largest freestanding steel cell block. This was the site of many suicides and violence. Visitors often hear screams, moans, slamming cell doors, footsteps, and see shadow figures darting past. Some inmates, while alive, reported seeing the ghost of a woman walking at night and tucking them in, possibly the spirit of a murdered nurse. The whole, solitary confinement. The site of extreme psychological torture. People hear the moans and insane babbling of those who lost their minds here. The ghost of guard Frank Hanger, beaten to death with a pipe by an inmate in 1932 while on duty in this area, is said to still linger, sometimes attacking visitors with an unseen baton. Visitors often feel nausea, chills being watched, and women are frequently targeted with hair-pulling or inappropriate touching. Basement, believed to be haunted by at least 3 entities. A malicious guard spirit, the ghost of a 14-year-old boy beaten to death. His ghost often appears frightened. And another unknown spirit always running in terror, possibly the residual energy of someone's horrific final moments. Some even report seeing a strange spider monkey-like entity crawling on the pipes. Warden's quarters, site of the Glatke family tragedy. Warden Arthur Glatke's wife Helen died in 1950 after a strange gun accident in their closet. Shot while reaching for a jewelry box, the gun supposedly discharged accidentally. She died 3 days later from pneumonia in the hospital. 9 years later, Glatke himself died suddenly of a heart attack in his office at the prison. Today, Helen's ghost is often seen in the bedroom, appearing distressed and sometimes saying she isn't dead. The scent of her perfume and Glatke's cigar smoke also appear occasionally. Sounds of moving furniture, piano music, and closing doors are heard when empty. This administrative area also hosts a resident ghost cat. Chapel, the site of religious services but not immune to haunting. Shadow figures often linger near the entrances connecting to the cell blocks. The ghost of a woman has been seen sitting in the pews, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing, sometimes sighing. The feeling of being grabbed by an unseen hand has also been reported here. The chair room. An empty, windowless room containing only a single chair and a hanging light bulb. Legend says if you place the chair in the center and leave, you'll find it moved upon your return. This room is believed to be haunted by one of the prison's most malevolent entities. Those who try to provoke this spirit are often attacked and leave with scratches on their bodies. Graveyard. Over 200 inmates died at OSR and were buried here. Because of their crimes, many families refuse to claim the bodies. Their headstones bear no names, only prisoner numbers. This anonymity and abandonment are thought to have kept many spirits restless. Countless shadow figures are seen wandering this graveyard. OSR's haunted reputation has attracted numerous famous paranormal investigation shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, Portals to Hell, Ghost Brothers, Scariest Places on Earth, and Destination Fear. The evidence they've collected is diverse: shadows, misty figures, strange lights, orbs, whispers, moans, growls, church bells, even direct responses through spirit boxes or other devices, objects being thrown like pebbles at Zach Boggins, feelings of being touched, scratched, or hit, EMF meters spiking erratically, sudden battery drains, audio recorders capturing strange sounds, feelings of fear, nausea, dizziness being watched. Investigator Greg Fikatic saw his first ghost, a shadow figure on the stairs right here at OSR. Some YouTubers participating in public ghost hunts have also recorded similar phenomena using tools like dowsing rods, pendulums, REM pods, and touch-activated flashlights. They've documented intelligent yes-no responses from spirits, felt sudden temperature drops, and even witnessed a pendulum stopping on command. Ohio State Reformatory is a place full of paradoxes. A magnificent structure built for humane purposes ultimately became one of America's most brutal and haunted prisons. Today, OSR stands as a museum, a historical site, a famous film location, and above all, a top destination for those wanting to confront the supernatural world. The angry, suffering, and desperate spirits seem still trapped behind the stone walls, continuing to serve their sentences even after death. The screams, footsteps, shadows, and chills are not just products of imagination in a gloomy space. They could very well be the real echoes of thousands of lives crushed here. Thank you for exploring the haunting story of the Ohio State Reformatory with me. How do you feel about this place and its stories? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue joining us on the path to unveiling the world's most terrifying mysteries. Goodbye and see you next time.